Well then, we'll call the meeting to order, 6:20, with the entire slate present. The first item would be to approve the minutes from the meeting February 11th, which I thought were accurate. Well done.
So I'll second that.
So I guess that was a motion for me to approve the minutes, seconded by Mr. Kroll. Any more discussion? No. Mr. Kroll, congratulations.
Oh, is that what you want to say, Mr. Cross, Mrs. Cross, or Ms.?
Yeah,
We are getting a middle piece for this meeting, so
good.
2 weeks.
All in
That'll
favor?
help.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, so we'll approve the minutes. Next would be the oath of office. Now, I have a question then. Will we continue with the meeting from that point forward for number 4? Is that protocol?
I didn't hear you. You got a little switch.
Oh, and once we swear in the new officers, then I think I'll have the gavel over.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we would move to item 3, oath of office for Planning Commission, Chair William Alexander, and Vice Chair Jamie Kroll. Ms. Kroll.
Okay. 2 more years for you, Jamie.
Yay.
That'll make you feel better tonight.
Yes.
Okay, Jamie, why don't you, if you're well enough, can you stand and read your oath, please? And raise or do something with your right hand. Okay,
Gotcha.
your left foot.
I, Jamie Crow, do solemnly swear to the ever-living God that I support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado and the ordinance of the town of Green Mountain Falls, and faithfully perform the duties of the office of the Planning Commission Vice Chair, person upon which I am here about to enter.
Okay, and
Sorry,
just
my-
make sure we're shaking.
I promise I don't have keys.
Stay away from press now too.
Do you have a
I
pen?
need to.
I have a pencil, but this probably
That's
should have a pen.
None of them have pens.
No, I'm getting sick.
I don't think,
Okay, I don't use pencils.
that's all I have to. You can erase
I don't
that.
trust, I don't trust.
Texting styles,
That's
especially.
All right.
But you got it behind that.
Mr. Alexander, if you would do the same,
Quite a
please.
good session.
I, William Alexander, do solemnly swear by the ever-living God that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado and the ordinances of the town of Green Mountain Falls, and faithfully perform the duties of the office of Planning Commission Chairperson, upon which I am about to enter.
All right, welcome there, Mr. Chairperson. And if you would sign that, and I will put the seal on it.
See this gavel now.
And
And show them how to use it.
Yeah, is there an instruction manual?
That's on page 33.
Through page 117.
B. Okay. Now, frivolity has taken place.
So next up is item number 4, final construction drawings for the new town hall. Robert Seaver of Keystone Associates.
Okay, we're definitely saving money. I did not choose to print 24 sheets for everybody because it is over $30 per set. So you have the condensed version right here. And I have a larger version. For those of us that can't see. Here, so I'll just spread out the questions. This is kind of nice, we can do this informally. I've been here how many times? Couple. This represents the final piece
Is
of
this the
the,
same as that?
yeah,
Can we just use the big one? Do you mind? Thank you.
my set has everything that's ever happened since the beginning, so that it works. quick recap, I've been here a number of times through the planning workshop process, through design, subdivision of the site, and now this is the final piece, in which the planning commission is involved, which is approval of plan sets. As you're aware, this is the first step in the permit process. I have you guys approve this stuff, and then I go down to regional and go through all the other reviewers, plan reviewers, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and fire enumeration, and planning, all these people. So, tell me if I'm going too fast. I don't really have a specific presentation in mind because we talked about the site quite a bit just recently in December with the subdivision. The subdivision is now, please go over there. And we are about 2 days from really getting this thing out to bid as well. So I can definitely say with the advertisement, we have interest. My phone's ringing about 150 times a day, and there's probably only 200 emails. So there are definitely people interested in this from all parts of the state. We do have 4 people that are that probably definitely meet the requirements to. State funding requires bonding and insurance, and that kind of limits your smaller firms, so that's good and bad. And that also has a lot of cost to the project, but I'm moving on the topic. On the site, which is really what I'm going to focus on here a little bit more than anything else, is basically what we presented before is the access drive cuts through to allow Mr. Lambert access to his other property. It's now ours as a town. Easements and stuff we discussed before, but basically the plan is to pave this, although there is an alternative. We are substantially over budget to not pave this. Hopefully we don't come to that. Both the access drive and parking as well. There's parking for public persons, for us, and people go to these meetings, and as well parking for the police function of the building, whatever that ends up being.
Good. Well, let me ask a question at this point. Since we realized that all of the money for this, well, the $150,000 that came from the insurance company is sort of the town's contribution, but all the rest of this money comes as grants, and is it coming from the town budget? That with not paving this, is that anything that's been promised in the grant process?
That's a good point. Well, I don't know that we went into that much detail with the grant process. They, interestingly enough, did not get set of drawings. We had an lengthy application that talked about the general concept, but we didn't get into the specification of paving and that kind of stuff. I think the other piece of that is Bill does have an extensive reporting process. Mr. MacArthur will be charged with that on the town's behalf. It's a monthly or quarterly report back. The contractor basically bills me, I have to review their thing, and we go back through. If we change their contract, then that'll be in the report to Bill, so they'll know what's going on. One correction, the grants are about $500,000 from the state, $50,000 from the building department. The town is presenting $100,000 in kind donation. That's through public works, basically for site work, grading, that kind of stuff. So it's 150 plus 100,000.
Which is basically one of the inputs.
Yes, exactly.
Not something that comes out of capital.
Correct. That comes out of normal capital.
Thanks.
Maintenance budgets. I'm happy to be stuck here on the grading plan, but this pretty much shows the general concept of this from a site plan standpoint. Property lines, easements, these are setbacks, I should say. There is an easement along the back that's a utility easement, although if anyone actually puts power in this orientation, I would be surprised. And as you're aware from the December presentation with the subdivision plat, we did grant, although it's not shown in the data plan, we did grant Mr. Lambert an easement that's kind of running parallel to this road for his utilities. And I'll just speak in Jay's review. This is interesting. This is the beginning of our Sonoma Spring utilities actually too. So we're looking at multiple things. Our utilities basically are either coming through the roadway itself, gas and water, or we're flanking it with telephone and electric. These are all buried utilities. We are in negotiation with Colorado Springs Utilities to move this power pole out here, just a smidgen to the south, and then this ultimately is for construction, but it's also part of the Springs Utilities submittal as well. Basically, they'll update their base maps with our utility information, but this kind of thing, but all our layouts too, so they know where our lines are at. The building itself, anything else on the site? Probably not. The permit process and the Springs Utilities process will be going concurrently over the next month or so. And then also Black Hills is the other utility company too. We're not really dealing with low voltage stuff here just yet. We'll do that when we get further into construction. Those are less of an issue for us, cost and everything else, than the gas, water, and electric such stuff. What else do I need to go into? The building has not changed since we've met before. I'm going to get into retainers and stuff like that. It has not changed that much from before. What we've done over the last couple of weeks is just fill in the details, get the columns detailed, figure out all the nuts and bolts. Conceptually, it looks about the same as it did before. We've been tweaking the columns and that kind of stuff here in the last few days. These plans are accurate in terms of height and width and all that stuff. There was a little bit of finesse going on in the last 4 or 5 months with that kind of stuff. The biggest constraints that we have are that this thing is tucked in the hillside, so we have how to use an architecture term, a big honking retaining wall back here. We did, and obviously in the public workshops, we talked a lot about height and 2 stories, 1 story, and 1 side. It's 1 story, clear story, which is kind of what we've been at for a couple of months. The big issue is how much do we stick up over the back with your conversation from before, is with that, what we were talking about this afternoon. This is about 4 feet. Every time I try to shorten this down to get it, to save money or pull it down, we end up getting to a point where your roof is like 2 feet off the grade. I'm not going to give it to vandals. I'm going to make them jump 5 feet to get on the building. Still, though, I think the advice that we're getting is we'll have some air conditioning units and things kind of tucked behind the building on the site. Is that we'll probably eventually put in some kind of fence back that kind of keep channels people a little further away from the ground and leave it on top. But you know, for engineers and architects, it's beautiful. We can just jump up there and make it the whole thing one time. But other than that, we don't really want people up there. That's the front elevation as you would see it. Basically, we are maintaining the 2 functions, even though the board needs to make some decisions on the police function. One way or another, we're figuring that's going to be utilized and see what the deal is. In fact, members in this room have talked with county about that, and then the board needs to talk about marshals. Either way, I will give a lot of credit to Tim Bradley, who did give us a lot of feedback in what the layout currently is. And I'll flip through the back of this building is a lot more clean than it was. We took the fake windows off because no one sees them, and there's a bunch of air conditioning.
Fact that air conditioning use any possibility of chain link or something to
Well,
protect
that's-
that from the rip-off artists.
That's what we're thinking. The units will sit kind of back in here, and then maybe 10 feet back off that. We'll put some chain link or something like that. That's, again, either way, units or the fence for the height is. And we still do have trees behind us too. So, this is the rear of the back elevation, and then this is the elevation from the, as the police would see it, on their back door. Basically pretty residential from a construction standpoint. Windows, 2x6 construction, that kind of stuff. Ask questions if you've got them on the board.
What's the square footage of this?
Square footage is 2,838 exactly, of which 600, almost exactly 600, is the police function over here. This little piece has changed a little bit with the tower design. It was more of an octagon before, and now it's figured out a little bit. The rest of this, the business functions pretty much exactly like it was before. The actual council court meeting area is about the same as it was before. It's a little bit, just for reference, a little bit bigger than this space here, a little bit longer than this space here, like 4 or 5 feet. But the idea is that we can get 40 people in there comfortably. And that's 30-some chairs plus 7 plus 3 staff. Uncomfortably, you could get more. And I think we've experienced that, at least in the board function in this room, how uncomfortable it is. Trying to think if anything else has changed, other than we did kind of, this is, I call it office, but it's really, we're not spending a ton of money on that. That's just so we have the mayor or Rob has a plan, or Mr. Carter has a place to meet people other than the public works depot. This is easier to find now.
It can couple with a second conference room.
True.
There's not.
It's all in the realm of flexibility, but this ultimately is just, I mean, storage space. So this is probably an office with a bunch of stuff in it.
One of the things also that Rob thought of is that if there's an executive session, the council comes here and no one has to leave.
That's a good idea. That's a good
I
idea.
think that's, yeah.
Right.
So they come right in there tomorrow.
Is there any, looked like there were 19 parking spots.
Yes.
So if you wanted to fill that, you're gonna have probably more than 19 vehicles. Is there parking other than designated?
Yes, I mean, it's informal. You can find that entrance drive, and then certainly it's not on the plan per se, but the thought is, I'm talking where it might, is that this little piece of sidewalk really kind of lends itself to going towards the church parking lot, which they aren't taking more than happy to assist the town in that regard, because this is kind of odd. I shouldn't say that lately we've had good attendance, but historically speaking, the parking should be adequate, but if we have a major event, they can overflow there, and then certainly, if it's much bigger event than this, they can make it to right at the old town hall. Well, yeah, it's better than it was. If it's a major event, when there's a lot of people, then I think you're looking at Salvador or some other facility where you can get 150 people or something like that. Even then, there's parking issues there.
Done that in 22 years. At one time, I think it was 22 years ago.
And our chief task really is, the programming phase of this early, about a year ago, was to analyze the historic trends. What is the general, over 20 or 30 years attendance of meetings? Although we have bumped this up just a little bit based on what's happened last year, just to make sure we are the idea being that this will all come. Ultimately, we could get offices in here as well, so there's a number of things we can do. The other piece of this is we could expand a little bit, maybe 10, 12 feet out to the side if we wanted and reconfigure this, but that's kind of the 50, 100-year crystal ball type thing. And I might, if you were to look, I can get you to the plumbing, but if we look at the plumbing drawings, we do have some things for waste and water that just are stuck out, if that might happen. Or for that matter, if Chris ever decides she actually does want to sink over here, we'll easily do that. So we're looking at solutions that are relatively cheap now that give us infrastructure, but not involving tearing up an entire concrete floor from 50 feet to get the sink in. So there's a few of those little things in here as well. I will spend a minute. There's a lot of framing. But it's spend a minute on the reflective ceiling plan for one reason. This shows our ceilings and lighting inside, but we also have some lighting on the porch. This thing, these guys are going to kind of move that a little bit, so we focus on those 2 big columns. Those are 12 foot, 3 foot wide. Those are big stone columns. So we want to kind of downlight those things and accent those features a little bit. On the tower itself, we have lights on that as well. They will be eave lights that shine down. We'll send Chris up there to change the bulbs. That's probably a lift truck to do that.
I'm glad it's being live streamed.
Yeah, I know, I know.
My daughters will appreciate that.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, I guess that's whoever's on the
Light detail?
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever's job
Um,
tasked to that.
and
I
on
want
the
to
front,
change colors, can I do that?
well, that's what I'm thinking, seasonally.
Like when the Broncos play.
Yes, there you go.
Exactly,
There
you want
you go.
orange out there, so you gotta send some, the ones on the roof or from the roof, you just go up there and change them off the roof. The ones in the front-
For shop,
Yeah.
for shop.
The ones in the front are 22 feet off there. So,
No
yeah.
brains.
There are two lights on the end of this, we're not seeing this, there are two flagpoles that flank the entranceway, US and Colorado. On that, we're talking about site lighting and vandalism issues there, so we've got kind of floodlights up here that will show those flags. And that's really more of a legal ethical issue in terms of if those flags are up there for some reason, it might be.
Yeah.
There's also a light here that will shine up on this, our tower a little bit. There's probably a little detail that I haven't put on here, but I've got a nice little finial that we'll put up there too. Just to make a little top piece to that.
It's a sculpture thing.
Gotcha.
Wait for me to be a designer or anything, but we'll put a little ditty.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. There was some discussion about site lighting, the parking lot, for instance. There's at least, and I don't have the site electrical on this thing at this minute, but we're probably gonna at least put pipe out there to do that, because I think, meetings in the winter especially, it'd be nice to have a little bit more lighting than just the outflow from the front porch. So that there's at least design for
It's
that.
prepared to be put in.
Infrastructure, yeah, so that's, okay, so the two flag poles are actually two of these three right out front. We'll change the top out for governmental reasons. And then I think, we'll put church on that. Be great, more kind, and the temporary region here also supporting what we're doing next door, and good neighbors, so. What else can I get into?
Are there gonna be any floodlights that are similar to the floodlights that the church has right out here?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Not really. If we do parking lot lights, then those would be what are called cutoff lamps, which are down lights. They look like a Kleenex box. They cut off, and the idea being in most jurisdictions from a planning standpoint, that your light needs to remain on your site. It can't overflow onto your neighbor's site, and it certainly can't go up.
So it's,
Those are just good general planning.
Every slide up here is
at
out of
my
control.
house, that's just atrocious, that light shining out.
Yeah, it seems like however, during construction, I think we are gonna utilize that pole that's out here and ask, because from a security standpoint, we're gonna put lights and shine, we're just gonna flood during construction, when we have equipment and stuff out there, we're gonna try to maintain, light all night long on that, so, that'll be a contractor discussion as well, once we get them on board about the security and safety, because we are not planning on fencing the site or doing anything like that, but we will want to make sure it's secure out there.
Color scheme, is that discussed?
It's a good one. I'll start at the top. We've got asphalt shingles. We're gonna do kind of a multicolored setup, and that's kind of an earth tone thing, with a little red, a little brown, a little beige, rather than uniform color. What I'm looking at on these bands, these are rough sawn timber, so we've got stain work up here. We're probably gonna play a little bit around with Green Mountain Falls Green, since that is kind of a general theme, in our logo, as well as other structures in town. Once we get back into this is the fiber cement board siding, lap siding, and the shingles, which are diagrammatic here. Those are gonna be more of a mahogany color, so we're gonna have two-tone with the trim and the field color, so it's gonna be kind of darker mahogany than the lighter mahogany color. With all natural tones, but organic, and then the same kind of picks up on the tower. This is shingle as well. Same siding. We're just playing around with different shades of the siding.
What's the rating on the shingles that you're gonna be using?
The shingles are a 50-year warranty, Class A, fire rated, which is the well, we aren't required to do 50, but I'm gonna do something, if we can, fairly heavy duty from the main standpoint of the roof. We've opted away from standing seam metal membranes, there are maintenance issues with that, the tail, and it's a much more costly system too, so we are looking at budget here too. Stonework is Eldorado stone, this is kind of, it's gonna again be a kind of, it'd be a multicolored thing, it's gonna be mostly beige, but you'll have a little fleck of red, a little fleck of gray, to mix up the color scheme a little bit.
Real stone or synthetic,
This would be synthetic, it'd be cultured stone.
that's great.
Most of the discussion with the building department in terms of the presentation for our $50,000 grant. Sticking around, spending that money on the stonework, things that were durable, represented time, longevity. The other part we talked about was the siding on this building is a certain T, is the spec. And it's fiber cement board, which is meets the requirements for safe mountain shadows and west side towers. We don't specifically have those requirements with our fire department up here, but we are going into that realm since one, we've got Walter Canyon, and two, the building, predecessor building is burned to the ground. So we're gonna try to make this a little bit more fire resistant. We won't give it to them. The other piece would be energy efficiency. These are, I think I mentioned before, we do high performance wall systems, and it's open cellulose and closed cellulose spray. Our 30 walls are 45 roof, so we are looking at energy efficiency too. So if we can spread that 50 grand into those three areas, that's kind of the target for that. The windows here are low E triple pane, so that's the other piece of it. We don't have a lot of openings on this building, then most of it falls under that insulation. The envelope, the insulation that's in the envelope. Those are the major categories. Yeah, thank you.
Can see a lot of thought has gone into this and bringing all the players in.
You know, it's been an interesting process, and I would say that the public workshops are instrumental, and we folks spent a lot of time researching the sites, somewhere around going into that. Really happy with the public input on this thing. Obviously, those were chaired by this board.
I want to say the website was an excellent idea that came up with and get the people to respond and then putting up requests for letters, and that was a very good response. Good idea.
But I think those 4 workshops were instrumental in kind of refining, or at least getting the concepts out there. Too big, too small, Victorian, modern, traditional, whatever. And then certainly that process expanded once we got to the joint planning board level. And then certainly I think the board was more than generous in allowing quite a bit of public input through last summer too. That's June and July before we submitted for DOLA. And then, as I said, at DOLA, Clay Brown and others at the DOLA side of this were very helpful as well. They deal with this in other communities all the time. So they really kind of emphasized the flexibility looking at the future. So I think the board, this board as well as the town council have also looked at that function. What is an appropriate amount of expansion, which we do have 500 square feet or so in here for that, but we don't have 2,000 square feet, which was one of the concepts out there. So it's been a nice melding process.
And there's no way this could have happened without you. No, I mean, you were the perfect person for this project. And always working with CIRSA, working with DOLA, working with Rob MacArthur, and all the board members and the public.
We're not going too far, we're not done.
Yeah. Well,
We
it's
have
almost 2
5 or
years.
6 more months and then.
Yeah. Oh, I had almost 2 years, I think I
Well,
can say
yes,
that after.
it's almost exactly 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't it like the 23rd? I think it was February 23rd.
February 23rd is when the fire.
Right, that's what I mean, the fire, I will never forget that day.
And granted, be me to be symbolic, I was kind of pushed for groundbreaking on that day, because, we're just not quite there, but we'll get it coming in the next 4 weeks.
Cool. All right.
I think Bids are due on March 21st at this point in time, so I can see there's been a lot of interest. We're looking tentatively about September 1st-ish. Contract is being that in terms of being complete with the project. I think that's about it. If there's any changes, we'll certainly report back.
I think I have to abstain because we're all on the project.
Well, I would make a motion to accept the plans. And understanding that, also that, Mrs. Lucasio's is not gonna vote on this because her husband's been involved with engineering and such.
I'll second it.
Have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I believe so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Rob. That's great.
We gotta get hard hats and little spray painted shovels and stuff.
We can have a safe
Well, that's my recommendation to the council, is that we, given, it's a community project, let's market it and make it positive. Because I think that, that's the other piece that Mr. MacArthur's mentioned, that we have been blessed with unanimous approval at the board level. So I'm very happy with that level of people working together. So,
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Great.
Is there any new business?
Nothing has come forward, and is there something that a board member, planning commission member would like to bring as new business?
I don't know that I'd call it new business, but as a result of the 2 vacation rental by owner agenda items from the last meeting, I'd like to find out if there is documented requirements, a checklist per se, for someone who wanted to convert a home from a residence to a rental. Judy apparently has gone through this, but if somebody new wanted to do this, is there criteria that could be presented to them? This is what you would need to do as far as the rules, no charcoal barbecues.
You're talking about 30-day or beyond rental, like a regular residential rental.
Well, for the vacation rental, where it's a special use.
Or a conditional use.
Or
Some
conditional
municipalities
use.
say. The, things like that, what you're talking about, like charcoal grills and things, that is things that the planning commission adds to the conditional use. That's not code.
Okay,
They have a code to follow.
so there is a guideline or a checklist that someone could go
Yes.
through to say, okay, I've got everything the way it needs to be, and then present it, then go through the petition process and the approval process.
Well, this is 28 that we've gone through. So, yeah, people have been doing this for a long time.
Okay.
And you have the code, and then you have an application, which you get and you
Yes.
see.
I've seen that.
And then, but the things that are added on to the special use are particular to the site or to the feedback we've gotten from neighbors.
Okay.
That's why it goes out to neighbors within 100 feet of all the property lines. One neighbor might come in and say, and it happens, you just can't have any parking right here because that's my septic system. That entrance, that's not a great analogy. So you make those conditions specific to the petition.
Okay, all right. No, I'm thinking ahead when Dave moves on, isn't here, we don't have this level of expertise. Is there historical documents that can be gone to help
Yes.
guide us?
Yeah, either the minutes or the copies of house rules
Okay,
of each of those are available here. ask
Well,
for.
they're in the file,
Yeah.
copies are in the files of the special permit applications.
Okay.
But again, the planning commission has to be very cohesive with the input that you get from the neighborhood. And that's what you either build on or everybody's very happy with. But that's why you have the public hearing.
Okay.
And you have enough time for all those letters to go out. And the site's posted. It's not just people within 100 feet. Anyone could comment on a special use. So,
Okay.
and you might, sometimes you do get that in the way of what you and John were just bringing up in the way of lighting. Someone on the other side of the hill may, have a comment about something. So you take it all into consideration when you're doing your findings.
Okay.
But the code on special use is in the municipal code book, as is the application. And that's pretty much, it follows 13, well, no, not that many, 10 points that the applicant has to prove that, they're not going to do anything that's an adverse reaction to the neighborhood,
Okay.
towards the community. So that's all within the code that they get right up front. The first
And then house rules are unique to each property then?
And most of those house rules are the owners come up with, very strict guidelines. Of course, they have a septic and other things like that, and they don't want dogs because they share it. They come back for periods of time.
Right.
And so what the planning commission does is add to those to bring in, remember Green Mountain Falls ordinances on noise control and things like that. And the wildlife ordinance that we have about where the trash cans should be, how they should be, things like that. Those are add-ons. And with a special use, remember that people are always reminded, every ordinance that you or I have to follow in this code book, so do the vacations. Everything is just right across the board, nothing changes. It's more restrictive, in a way, but we follow every rule that we have. Their dog is loose, their dog gets ticketed, things like that. So that code book is across the board.
Very good.
What percentage of homes are vacation rentals here? Do you know off the rough numbers?
Well, I was at the planning commission at the last meeting, it's on the upswing again.
Yeah, because you see a lot of applications for that.
Right, and we have at least 28, if not closer to 30. And one of the things that's interesting that's happening, like Mr. Scheffler's home, and that in particular, that can go year round. Very many of these requests and these petitions are cabins from 1928, 1930, and 1940. So come October, they're shut down because that water line is right there, you trip over and getting into the house. But we're getting more like Mr. Scheffler, newer built homes, and that's a 74, I think. But that are, people are just looking for more income. And I think one of the very good things, Judy from Sutton Property Manager mentioned it. You go up to Woodland and other places, there aren't any guidelines for special use for vacation. You just do it. Right now that's changing, even for Woodland Park. But Green Mountain Falls, for more than 30 years, has always had conditional use code. So I think the neighbors have been pretty pleased to have that.
That makes sense, the density, everyone's closer. I mean, Open Park's close too, but
But not as a right.
We're a little an echo chamber.
we need
For geography,
What's
geology,
going on?
it's different.
Okay, any new correspondence?
No, sir?
no further business, we'll call the meeting to an end at 7 p.m.